Hello, everyone. I'm Martina Trucco from Micron here, and I'm joined by Manish Bhatia, Executive Vice President for Global Operations at Micron. Manish, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Martina. Happy to be here.
Before we dive in, Manish, tell us a little bit about your role as the head of global operations here at Micron.
Sure. So, the global operations team has responsibility for our global manufacturing footprint, as well as other aspects of manufacturing engineering, including quality and supply chain planning, procurement, uh, and then also we have responsibility for IT for the company.
So I think the question that's on everyone's minds when we think about all the responsibilities that you have on your team is, has there been any impact from the COVID pandemic on our manufacturing operations, on our ability to meet our customers' commitments, and kind of walk us through what that's really been looking like for you and your team?
Sure. So I think Micron has responded fairly well from the earliest days of this, crisis back in mid-January timeframe when the Chinese government decided to impose restricted movement measures out of the Hubei province. That was really an alarm bell for us, not just in China, of course, where we do have some manufacturing operations, but all of our manufacturing operations across Asia, where we decided to start putting in place um, uh, pandemic procedures even ahead of cases spreading to those regions. And I think that kept us ahead of things. And then now we've, of course, continued to enhance those procedures as the virus as more has become known about the virus. We've tailored the procedures that we put in place to be able to respond to those, and we have them in place in all of our manufacturing sites globally.
And I understand that we have a number of team members who are still in our operations capacity, but they're actually working under some really interesting protocols that you've put into place in terms of being sure that we keep them safe, separating teams into red and blue teams, making sure we have the right kinds of, social distancing and protective measures in place. Can you walk us through a little bit more about what we're doing to help keep our team members safe around the globe?
Right. So I think team member safety has been our number one priority throughout all of this. And we really started with kind of a two-step process. The first step was to really reduce the risk of number of cases coming onto any of our sites, which of course is directly related to the number of people that are coming to our site. So we started by reducing the number of people that come to site, increasing work from home for administrative functions that could do their job from home, and dramatically reducing the number of visitors and contractors and field support team members that come to our sites on a daily basis. And that was the kind of the first step. And then the second step was reducing the risk of spread were we to have a case on site, which we go through these measures to segment our population into these red team and blue team, which means we'll take a given functional team and we'll split them up into two different teams. So let's say one of our manufacturing engineering groups or one of our production planning groups, we'll segment the same group into different team members so that they don't come into contact with each other. Then they either rotate the days that they come to work, or they have operation sites in different parts of the factory. For example, our remote operating centers that we have where we control kind of like the cockpit where we control all the different operations from inside our fabs. We split those into two so that we had redundancy in those kind of operations and split those team members between red and blue. And then the red and blue team members come to work at different times. We've staggered their shifts, staggered their cafeteria shifts, given them different locations physically separated within each of our sites. And that combined with all other protocols around mask wearing, around temperature scanning and temperature reporting, travel declarations, all of these other things have come together to help us maintain essentially full production output and meeting all of our customer requirements at essentially all of our sites around the world. The one exception being where there was a government-imposed mandate to reduce the number of people coming to our site and reduce our production output in our Malaysia operations. Other than that, all of our other sites have been at full production really throughout this entire period.
It's really extraordinary to hear that. When you think about how much of a change that's represented for our teams in such a short amount of time, you must be incredibly proud of the Micron team right now and kind of how they're coping. Tell us a little bit more about what you're hearing from team members.
Team has responded incredibly well, and I think responded as a team, both for Micron, for our customers, and then also for the communities that they live in. I mean, I'm really proud. There was a case, Martina, you and I know about, where we had um, some of our customer service representatives at the very beginning of this outbreak identify proactively on their own, not some management directive, but they themselves went up and identified certain customer segments where they knew our products were going into either medical devices or going into servers that were going to help build emergency hospitals. And on their own, work with the supply chain, work with manufacturing to prioritize those, expedite those. I think we very well are aware at Micron, all of our team members, that the products we build, whether they're in DRAM, whether they're in NAND, solid state drives, DRAM modules, they go into the cloud, they go into servers that are helping scientists around the world and healthcare organizations around the world find treatments for this disease, find vaccines for this disease, and do contact tracing to prevent the spread and really protect all of their community safety, as well as helping the rest of us who are at home cope with the situation that's caused uniquely by this, whether it's more e-learning, more work from home, more e-commerce, more video conferencing. All of our products go to help the world to cope on both of these levels. And our team members are really proud of that. I'm certainly proud to be part of Micron and proud of how our team has responded. And I think that's been a real rallying cry for us across global operations.
Well, and I think that really speaks to the importance of being able to continue the operations during this time, because really all of our customers and their customers are really counting on us to be able to get those products out there. When we look ahead, and hopefully we'll see ourselves out of this pandemic, hopefully in the not too far future, I know that your team is also really excited about some of the things that they're doing that are really forward looking. And I thought we might talk a little bit about, what do you think this means for the future of manufacturing as we start to come out of this? What can we look forward to, and what can we get hopeful about in your area?
Yes, certainly. So I think we have been leaders here at Micron in adopting new we call smart manufacturing techniques. Incorporating artificial intelligence, incorporating big data analytics, and incorporating industrial Internet of Things, kind of massive sensor deployment across our manufacturing operations. And we've needed to do that just to cope with the increasing complexity of each successive technology node, whether in DRAM or NAND. They're just getting tougher and tougher, and we need that just to be able to cope with that and continue scaling our technologies. And I think what we see now is that a lot of the things that we have on our roadmap for maybe deploying 1 year from now or 2 years from now, we're just accelerating them. So, for example, trying to have more remote automation to be able to monitor and control our fabs, even at the next level. We're starting to see the ability to do that even more. We're starting to see the value of those sensor deployments and tracking and monitoring variability in our operations remotely, even to have even greater benefit. And we're using video conferencing actually with our engineers offsite, or even our equipment industry partners, engineers. We're actually bringing them into our fabs on a video conference to be able to help us tune equipment, or do maintenance on equipment, or do tool installations. All of these things kind of happening remotely in an era where we can't have people on site, or we can't have people traveling internationally. And then, the other thing that's going to be pulled in dramatically, we have a roadmap that we're really excited about, where we're, trying to take that video conferencing aspect to the next level with really augmented reality and virtual reality tools that can get even another double click down, where engineers or technicians working on a tool or working in a fab can actually be guided by experts who are outside the fab real time, and we can actually perform our work more efficiently, but also more effectively. And we think that roadmap is going to get accelerated by 12 to 24 months here going forward.
It's really interesting to see how these are some of these unintended consequences of the technologies that you thought you had a little bit more of a roadmap to be able to test out, and now you've kind of had to jump into the deep end of the pool.
You can pick any number of your colloquialisms. Necessity is the mother of invention, or crisis is a terrible thing to waste. But looking back in history, I like to talk about other crises and how they changed our world forever. I go back to 1970s when there was an oil shock, the oil shock and oil crisis, and oil prices skyrocketing led to dramatic changes in the way automobile platforms were designed for fuel efficiency, and we just continue to ratchet that up. The automobile industry has ratcheted that up for the last 40 years, and has changed all of our lives in that way. You see that. I think you'll see this exact same thing happening from this crisis across how we work, how we maintain our factories, how we deploy new technologies, how we work with our customers collaboratively to qualify our products with them, how we work with our suppliers collaboratively to be able to manage tool development and materials qualification. All of these things are going to change. I think they're going to be a positive. I think one of the real positives that I'm seeing across the value chain, whether it's with our customers or backwards with our suppliers, is a real desire to collaborate even more closely globally, as well as across tiers within the value chain, to be able to develop technical solutions or operational solutions faster, and to problems that maybe we would have needed to tackle in person. We can do all of it virtually. We can use different data techniques, and we can allow us to actually eventually lead to more productivity enhancement for our entire industry. So I'm really excited, and I'm really encouraged by the collaboration and really the unity that the whole world seems to be showing to be fighting this terrible virus.
Well, and it's incredible to see that collaboration happening at every level, as you said. And we've heard about it from when we've spoken to Mike Boken, who heads our sales organization globally. Even that sense of collaboration with our customers, we've seen it with suppliers and partners. There really is that sense that we're all in this together to be able to get through it together, which is really quite extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Manish, with one more thing just to wrap things up here, I think we'd all really like to know, what are you most looking forward to when we come out of this crisis and we get back to some kind of normal? What's on your list?
So, we have that question at my dining table almost every night here in Singapore with my family. I have 2 teenage kids and my wife, and we're on assignment here. But all of our family is back in the U.S. And one of the unintended good things about this has been that we're keeping in touch with our family back in the U.S. Via video conference much more frequently on a daily basis, more than we did before. And so that's good. We feel closer as a global family, whether it's my wife's family or my family. And I'm just looking forward to being able to see them again, whether my parents and my wife's parents and our extended families. That's really number one on our list, is going back and being able to visit them and just be close to them again.
Well, there's nothing like a hug in person, even if you do get to video conference every day if you want to, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
That's right. Manish, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for giving us a little look into how things are going in the operations team, and really appreciate everything that you and the team are doing for us here at Micron. Thanks so much.
Sure. Thanks, Martina. Happy to do it. And, really looking forward to being able to say this crisis is behind us. But in the meantime, want to deliver for keep our team members safe and, deliver for our customers.